here at Signature Theater with Ricky Ian Gordon, the composer of Sycamore Trees.
Mama, who said life is fair? You know it's not, Mama.
It's nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
Ricky Ian Gordon, one of my favorite composers on this earth. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. This is our second to last preview. Well, actually, it's really our last preview because we have to be frozen tomorrow night. But it's been really intense. I mean, we've really worked on the show over here. I mean, I was up all night, not last night, but the night before, rewriting. We finally saw something in the show that was really clear, and once it was clear, I just couldn't wait to write it. But it took the whole night. Okay. So, and then I rewrote the whole end of a song and did a different choral arrangement for something, and it's been intense.
I feel sorry for your poor cast. I gotta learn all this now.
But they have been great. What a cast. They're an incredible cast.
Let's talk about that cast.
Absolutely.
Well, my favorite, Mark Kudish, who I've interviewed 5 times already.
Mark's amazing. Unbelievable.
Okay.
Mark plays, he plays in the show Sidney Sylvan, right? This is about the Sylvan family. And I keep feeling like, oh, don't say it's, don't talk about it being your family, but it's unavoidable. I mean, everybody knows at this point. So Mark plays my dad, and he's incredible. I've never worked with Mark before. And
really?
He's a revelation.
He is a hard-working guy. He
always
gives 500% every time
and he's
out
imaginative.
Yeah.
And his input, he's really intelligent. He's trying some things tonight that he suggested, and I said, let's see. And then the part of the mother, Edie, I wrote for Diane Sutherland, or who used to be Diane Frantoni. Diane and I went to Carnegie Mellon
That's
together.
Diane, who was in She Loves Me?
Yeah, that's Diane.
And was nominated for a Tony Award?
Mm-hmm. That's Diane.
Wow. I've been wondering what happened to her.
She is playing my mother in this piece, and I wrote
incredible.
the part for her. I've known her since I was 16. And she was very close with my mom, and my mom said, that's who should play me. So she's playing Edie Sylvan, and then the 3 sisters. The oldest sister is Jessica Molaski, and she plays Myrna. And then the middle sister is Judy Kuhn. And Jessica, we've done readings and workshops of this piece, and Jessica has always played that part, and I never dreamed of anyone else playing it. I love Jessica. And we've also, you probably know this, but Jessica and I have written together as well.
What have you written?
Well, Audrey McDonald recorded a song on her album Build a Bridge called Cradle and All.
That's
and
you.
Jessica and I wrote that together.
Right.
And we also wrote a new song called Dance All the Way Home that we're hoping Audrey records on her next CD. And then Judy Kuhn.
Oh my God, the great
Judy Kuhn, who is starred in Dream True, the musical I wrote with Tina. And Judy plays Teresa Sylvan, the middle sister in this piece. And then the youngest daughter, who I've never worked with, who I adore and is such a revelation, is Farrah Alvin.
Where'd you find her?
We had auditions. And
so the auditions were in New York, right?
We had auditions in New York, and we had a full day of auditions, and Farrah was the first one that came in.
And she blew you away.
Yeah, and it was like, you just felt bad for anyone who came in after her.
Oh, no.
Because basically it was cast in your mind. And it's not just her beautiful voice or the great, intelligent way she read the lines. It's also, she looks so much like my sister. It's frightening. It's unbelievable. Yeah.
So who's here tonight? Because I bumped into you and a family member. Anybody?
No. I have first cousins who live here, and we were with all their kids too.
Oh, that'll be fun.
Yeah, but their kids aren't coached tonight. I said that one of them has to see it and decide. I don't think it's a kids show. It's very it's very intense, this show. I mean, you'll see. You're seeing it.
Right.
Yeah, you can tell me too.
Right.
But and then the young man who plays Andrew, who would be me, and this is really interesting, Joel. But Andrew, when I went to see, was it last year or the year before, the revival of Gypsy with Patti LuPone?
It was 2 years ago.
Okay, I remember sitting in the theater, and this guy comes on as Tulsa. And I'd seen that show so many times.
I knew that was him.
Yeah. Oh, you didn't?
No.
I've I've never seen anyone
stole
make
the show.
such an.
He stole the
He
show.
stole the show. He was as good as Patty LuPone or anyone else in that show. He was riveting.
I hope Patty doesn't hear this.
Oh, I thought he was amazing.
Me too. I said, like, where did he come from?
Like, I had never seen him before. So
Yeah,
then he walks in to auditions. Now, by the way, I didn't really remember his name. Like, it didn't really register for me.
Right.
But Tina was holding auditions. I had to be doing a concert, so I couldn't be at
This
the
is
first.
Tina Landau.
Tina
We should
Landau.
Tell people who's directing.
Tina
the show.
Landau, the director.
Okay.
I had to be at doing a concert somewhere, so I couldn't be at the first 2 days of auditions. So I came to callbacks, and Tina said, "There's this guy. He's really great. I'm bringing him in for both roles, for David and Andrew, because he's so good." And as soon as I saw him, I was like, "Oh my God,
Oh,
Tina,
it's
that's the guy
him."
from-" It's like, I want him. So
All I need now is him, right?
yeah, he's
instead of the
like,
girl.
yeah, exactly. He was incredible. And then Matthew Risch, who I didn't unfortunately see, the pal Joey. I heard he was great in that
Stole
show.
the show.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I heard he was incredible.
Yep.
So he came in and auditioned for us and was phenomenal. And it was like,
You
we're
can't
cast.
do better here. This is
No.
the dream cast.
No, it's an unbelievable cast. We're so lucky.
And how did you have the final say in all this? Of who got hired?
You know, I mean, it's Tina and I, but we pretty much agreed on everything. You know, and it's not like, New York is New York, so really good people come to audition, but it was pretty clear. And it's very, don't forget, there's 7 people in this show. They have to be right. And you also have to feel like they're
There's
going to
gotta be
have
that
a chemistry
chemistry, yeah.
together, which they do.
And they do. Did
There's-
they have it right away? Was it?
It's pretty intense right away. Yeah.
Okay.
There was a very strong thing happening in the room right away. I can't wait till you see it.
So why did you choose the name Sycamore Trees?
Because the piece is basically about this couple that live in the Bronx moving to the suburbs of Long Island. And the thing about Sycamore Trees were that they were planted in all the suburbs in America because they grow quickly and they provide great shade. So
They also hide a lot of things that are going on in the neighborhoods. Right?
Yeah, they were essentially the great witnesses of the
That's really clever. you
yeah.
know?
Well, that's
a little seichel there. That
so
was
there's a
good.
big song
All
called
right.
Sycamore Trees in Act 1
All
about
right.
when they move out to the suburbs.
That's great.
It's the big number.
So that's where that all came from. Okay, you want to talk just a little bit about sentence or two what the show's about?
The show is about this family, the Sylvans, who basically, when we meet them, we have this sense that they are sort of in this theater to tell a story, and in particular, the son Andrew, who's the youngest, he has 3 older sisters, sort of announces, "I have a story to tell," and in the course of the evening, he's trying to tell his story and the family story, but the family, who he has sort of conjured up and brought here, their personalities are so strong that they don't hijack it, but it becomes a
Pretty close,
collaboration.
right?
Yeah,
Pretty close.
it becomes a collaboration in the telling of the story of the family, and ultimately the story that Andrew needs to tell, which is at the end, which I won't give away, but it's sort of the context for the show, and in a way, it's in this story of my life too. What happened was, I'd been working on this show for a long time.
Since when, 83? Is that
Like,
true?
yeah. hmm
You were taking notes and everything?
Yeah,
all
like,
the
and
way
I
back
have
there?
1,000 songs written for this piece. But it wasn't.
Seriously?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So you've got a trunk in its own
Trump,
for this.
just for this show. So then what happened was, but it was as if I was writing this show out of my adoration and fascination with my family. However, it wasn't until I had my own story that the context for writing about them made sense to me.
Well, it helped having some money from the Shen Foundation too, right?
Well, it did, except I was, let me say this, having money from the Shem Foundation was fantastic, but I've always written, like
No, we
I've written
know
when I had
that.
no money, but believe me,
Hey, I
I've
know
been
what
really
it's
grateful.
like not to have money.
Yeah,
Doing this.
exactly,
Yeah.
So that's essentially, and it's also the story of families, the post-war American family that moves to the suburbs with high hopes and eventually dashed ones.
Well, we came from similar upbringings here. Raised in Jewish homes.
Right.
Parents were immigrants.
Yeah. Now, were your parents? See, my parents were raised by immigrants, but they were not. Like, my mother was born in Harlem. My dad was born in the Bronx. Yeah.
Interesting.
Their parents were Polish, Russian, and Romanian.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Well, my side is a Russian, Hungarian, Romanian, so we have some of that. Right?
Yeah.
But your mother, Eve Saunders, had a great voice, performed at Grossinger's. I think I may have heard her.
Yeah, she was a big star in the Borscht Belt. And as a matter of fact, if you stick around when you see it tonight, or anyone who's listening to this, you have to stay past the bows, because as soon as the bows are over, a voice takes over the theater, and it's my mom.
That's her. Okay. Well, you wrote the song "My Mother Is a Singer," so tell us about that.
And that's in the piece.
Right.
Yeah. Well, our whole life when I was growing up, my mother had an exquisitely beautiful voice, and she was very funny. She told filthy jokes all the time, and I was her piano player. Like, whenever she was going to sing for anybody, she'd put her hands on my shoulders, and I would sing
play.
for her.
Yeah.
I mean, I would play for her, and I think I had a very idealized vision of my mother, and I always saw her as someone who sacrificed this incredible gift to have us and to have a family. And so, in some ways, I couldn't help it. My mother was always slightly tragic to me.
Really?
And I loved her way too much. Like, I'm such a mama's boy. So, writing that song was like a way of sort of heralding her,
So you got a chance to do it.
Yeah.
And for everybody to hear it.
Yes, exactly.
So how tough was that to hear it the first time performed on the stage?
There's been a lot of, I did, the journey to bringing this piece to this moment has been a lot of tears. But luckily, I've done that a lot now, and I can sort of watch it now. And I can't wait for you to see how that song is staged. It's really
can't wait to see
beautifully
it.
staged.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it.
Tina Landau is a genius.
Well, we all know that.
Yeah,
I
really
was so
needs it.
happy to see that you were bringing her in to direct it.
Oh my God, it's so beautifully directed and designed. James Schuette's set and Scott Zielinski's lighting. It's a beautiful looking piece.
I've been waiting for it.
Yeah,
and
good.
Sitting down with you, I've been waiting. So this is
Okay,
great.
good.
All right. So how much of the theme regret and if only are in the show because of this?
It's as if, it's not as if characters stand around and talk about what they regret. It's more like the fabric is drenched in regret and if only. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Although there's great joy and a lot of humor in the piece. You know what I mean? They're
you
funny
need it.
people.
You need it in a
Yeah,
piece
they're
like
funny
this.
people. Yeah.
Well, that's why we were such good comedians.
That's right.
Because we could look at all this dreck we were going through.
Yeah.
And we were very good at laughing at ourselves.
Yes.
And there are a lot of groups who can't do that.
Yeah, and I think that's really resonant in the piece.
Oh, good. I can't wait.
Yeah, there's a lot of comedy in it.
What's the most exhilarating thing about watching the show, and what's the scariest of putting this show on for you?
The most exhilarating thing to watch is that, here's a really good example. One day, a couple of weeks ago, right before we came here, there was this moment where I had to go, my mom, who's in assisted living in Florida, fell twice, and I had to go down. It meant that they were staging Act 2 without me.
Right.
So when I came back to New York, I was sitting at the rehearsal table, and they were running through a scene. And normally, I was somewhat guarded in the room.
You? Guarded?
No, I was. I was a
No,
little
come
bit
on.
meaning just protecting myself from. And what happened was they ran this scene, and it's the Father's Song in Act 2.
Right.
And I had no
What's
idea.
it called?
It's called Father's Song.
Okay, that's original. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I had no idea how it was going to be staged.
Mm-hmm.
And they ran through this song, and the whole time I was biting my lip, just thinking, "Don't." It's just like when that was done, I didn't even start crying. I started howling, and I'm glad it happened because it had to happen sooner or later. And Tina came over and sort of really basically climbed on top of me and held me for about 10 minutes. And after that, we didn't all need to talk about it. It was just it happened. It really, what happened for me wasn't just that it was moving what they did, but it was like my father and my sister were in the room, who were both not on this earth, you know what I mean?
Right.
And then, you'll see, but it's also a lot about my partner who passed away in 1996. Right. So it's so beautifully enacted that it's hard not to feel like they're here. It's like, and I was saying that today, that watching this show for me is it's so rich, and a lot of times it's like visiting with my dead.
It's like having a seance here when you're watching this show.
Yeah, and it's hard not to believe they're not here because these people play them so beautifully.
Mm-hmm. It's very therapeutic, too, for you.
Very cathartic.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
So you're happy with what you're seeing on the stage now,
I am very happy.
Let's talk about that score of yours, because you're a unique guy. You don't fall into that, the standard stuff. That's why I respect you so much. Whenever I come and hear one of your works, I say, I'm going to be totally surprised here.
Yeah, I think you will be tonight.
So tell me a little bit about the score. What kind of styles do you use in it, and whatever you want to share with us?
You know, the thing about this score is, because the piece spans 6 decades, right? Mm-hmm. What you're going to hear, now of course everything's filtered through me, but for example, the early music in the show, a lot of it is period music.
So very melodic stuff?
Oh yeah, and really like period, like...
Really? Am I going to go, did he write this thing?
Yeah, the parents sing a duet called Hours, or there's a song called Far Away that could have been written in the 40s.
Wow.
And then what happens is, as the decades change, the music changes, and it evolves, and there's moments, for example, there's a moment there's a section of Act 1, it's a poem, and it's called Haunted, and the music to that is completely 12-tone.
Really?
Yeah, there are moments in the show that are really atonal. There are some songs that are really...
Very Ricky-ish, as we say.
Very Ricky-ish, but sometimes really sharp and angular, and this isn't... Like, for example, if like Dream True was a sort of warm and fuzzy Ricky, this is a much more angular, edgy Ricky, this show.
I better stand back when
Well,
that
let's
happens.
see but it's different. And Joel, like every score is different, right? Like My Life with Albertine, when I wrote that, I was thinking about like Poulenc and, Les Six, and, this is much more...
beautiful score, may I say.
I
never
love
forget
that show.
Yeah, I love that show, too.
Dream True is more like this sort of cloudy dream, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. This show is very about the times and about the decades in which things are happening, which I think you'll see.
So what's the most emotional scene for you in the show? And what song was the hardest to write for you and the most emotional when you watch the show?
It's really hard to say. I mean, probably the most emotional thing for me in the show, interestingly, is the final monologue. There's a monologue that that hits me, and the father's song. But each song hits me in a different way. Don't forget, one of the reasons it's been really hard to preview this show in terms of working on it, and I know it's been hard for Tina, is for me to lose anything. Every time I'm cutting something from the show, I'm cutting
a piece of your life,
basically. And that is really what it's like. And it took years to arrive at what was
at
finally
that moment before they cut it.
So
that's got to be driving you crazy, right?
We cut this song the other night. I was crying all day. It was we tried it.
What was it called?
Tuesday night. It was a song called "There Is Grace," and it starts. The opening lyric was, "My parents couldn't protect me from kids who were rough, who threw firecrackers and curses and stuff at me as I walked home."
Sounds like growing up in North Buffalo.
Yeah. And it was this, but then what happened was, there was almost this feeling like, and that was an earlier song I wrote. Mm-hmm. And in some ways what happened with some of the earlier songs was each earlier song, in a way, contained the whole story. And what started happening was, you didn't need the whole story in a song. And so by cutting it, it's sort of like, there's that thing that Ann Sexton says about drowning your babies.
Right.
By drowning that baby the other night, a lot of the other babies suddenly seemed to breathe freer. And it was such a good thing to do, even though I was dreading it. It ended up being a great night because it was like, wow, the show's better without that
When you
song.
have a great director, you can trust her.
And that's what she said. She said, "Ricky, let's just try it tonight, and if you don't like it, we'll put it back in tomorrow night."
God, actors would kill to work with someone like that.
No, Tina's the best. I adore her.
And How far back do you go working with her?
Well, I mean, it's funny because basically she got out of school in the early 80s and I met her in Boston and I was like, whoever you are, I'm going to be working with you. And I nabbed her then. And I was always trying to figure out a reason to work with her, a context, until she came over to my house in the early 90s, I think with Ann Bogart. And I just played and sang a million songs for them. And then Tina had a residency it was then the American Music Theater Festival in Philadelphia, and I think it might have been something she was supposed to write with Adam, I know what happened.
Is that Adam
They were
Guetta?
working on Floyd Collins, but Adam needed more time with that, and suddenly she had this time to work on a piece, and she wanted to work on a Revolutionary War piece, and she just called me and she said, would you be willing to come to Philadelphia?
She came out of the cave and worked with you.
Yes, that's right.
That's great.
And she asked me if I would be willing to come to Philadelphia and work on this piece with her, and I said yes. And so we did States of Independence.
So that's where that all came from.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Mm-hmm. See, it's all timing, isn't it?
It is
in
all
this
timing.
business, right?
And then we never stopped working together. Oh, sorry, because then we did we did Dream True, but we also did Stonewall, which was a huge piece we did outside on a pier with like 75 people in it.
Wow.
And I had a chorus of angels and drag queens, and it was for the 25th anniversary of Stonewall. So it was like 1994.
Right.
Yeah. And then we've done each of our other pieces many times. I mean, we've worked together a lot.
You're like brother and sister here.
We sort of are like brother and sister.
Tell me something about Ricky Ian Gordon that only you and your friends know about.
Well, it's interesting because I learned something about myself here that wasn't necessarily easy to learn.
Which was?
Well, one day Tina was really angry at me, or really upset with me, and she finally expressed it, and what it was she felt like she was tiptoeing around me, that I was so, because everything is so personal for me, that she was finding it hard. She said if I was here with any other writer, I would be like, every preview would be about getting my hands dirty, and like
Right.
I would never protect the writer.
She's touching you with kids'
Yeah,
gloves because
she
she
said
loves
she
you
felt
so
like
much,
she's
yeah.
protecting me so much.
Yeah.
And it was great because I was like, you know what? Stop.
Right.
And I don't want you to have to do that for me. But so I found that a little bit, that and probably it happens more in my life than I think, that people feel like I'm so vulnerable or I'm so attached to everything, so that they have to treat me with kid gloves, and I have to stop it.
You gotta stand up for yourself,
That's
kid.
right. Yeah.
Okay, so what is it about you that makes your music so unique?
You know what? My only answer for that is this, because I teach, right?
Right. And where do you teach?
Well, I taught like, sort of everywhere. Like I'm adjunct, everywhere.
Right.
But the thing about young composers that surprises me a lot of times is, when I was growing up, I listened to everything. And I really mean everything. I knew everything Messiaen wrote. I knew everything Berg wrote, everything Britten wrote, Joni Mitchell, the Beatles, Britten, Gershwin, Mark Blitzstein, Kurt Weill. Like, I was an animal. I was so obsessed with
Me
music.
too.
Right?
Yeah,
Okay.
you run around and people say, I only like this and I only like that.
No, like I was a freakazoid. And the thing is, so I think what, if anything, makes my music is that I have really, really a lot of influences. And that is, to me, the art of writing for the theater is about knowing as much vocabulary as you can.
Well, let's end this because we have people
Okay.
who are waiting for
Yes,
us.
that's right. Is that good?
How's the timing? So I got one more here for you, okay?
Okay.
What do you want audiences to take with them when they leave Signature Theater after seeing Sycamore Trees?
I want them to be reminded of their own love for their own families, and I want them to be able to celebrate what it is they loved in their own families. And whatever that means, that doesn't have to mean the family of origin. It can mean the family you made for yourself. But this piece was born out of my burning, fiery love for my family.